spending some time in the bean patch this morning. Matt and I have been working outside, and then he had to take off to go down at Granny's. There's something wrong with part of her plumbing he's going to check out. And I thought, well, I better check on the rattlesnake beans and just see if there's any. They've been kind of dwindling out each week, but I guess they had a new spurt in the last week while we thought they were dwindling out. And I've already picked one 5-gallon bucket, so I went and grabbed me another bucket, and now I'm gonna start filling it. I'm basically picking most of them. I'm leaving some of the little bitty ones, but a lot of them I'm just going to go ahead and pick. That one's got a bug, something's eat out of it, so I'm going to get it even though it's a little one. But most of them are pretty big size beans, so that's a pleasant surprise. Matt will be really surprised because he thought they were done, and he's just waiting on time to pull them down. But we've definitely got enough for a cannon, so that's great. We'll do one more cannon. We thought we were done for the year, but we're not. I've always thought the bean patch was a really magical place, even since I was a little girl. Got a little friend there with me. Of course, there's the bounty of the green beans. That's magical. But there's other things too, like the buzzing bee there around my face. If I'm really quiet for a few minutes, you can hear what I hear. I'll be quiet and you listen. The sound of summer in Appalachia for sure. The jar flies, the birds. It's wonderful, wonderful to listen to both of them. It's pretty much a constant chorus though of jar flies and birds. Along with the amazing green beans the plants produce, look at those beautiful blooms. Beautiful, just such a pretty color. Most white half runners and greasy beans are kind of a white or cream colored bloom, but the rattlesnakes are this beautiful, beautiful color of purple. So while you're going along picking the beans, every once in a while you'll spy one of those flowers, and it's just such a cheery sight. Sometimes when you pull off a bean, it strings itself. It goes ahead and strings itself. Not often, but sometimes. I especially like when I'm on the very back row of beans. There's a couple of reasons. One is that we usually save it to the last, just how we go in order, so it means you're almost done with your task. You've almost got all the beans. But two, it kind of feels like you're in a secret garden because you're shaded from the beans, and then they've got the woods on this side, and you're just on this little narrow strip, and kind of feels secluded and like no one knows where you're at. So that's kind of a nice feeling. I'm already over half of another 5-gallon bucket, so maybe I'll almost get to the top if I don't get all the way to the top. I'm so glad I decided to come check, though. I thought I might just get enough a mess for supper or something like that, but definitely going to be a cannon. Another reason I really like this back row is for the beautiful flowers, the wildflowers that are growing off the bank, and different times of the summer. Earlier in the summer, you can see things blooming, even in the spring, daffodils, where over the years my flowers have made their way down this bank, whether from reseeding or where we've pulled them up accidentally and threw them off. But there's always something blooming back here, kind of hidden again, like it's a secret garden. Then there's the beauty of the wild things that are blooming, which that phlox is really wild too. But this is Joe Pye weed, queen of the meadow, queen of the medder. It'll continue to bloom. It's like one of the signs of fall. Fall of the year is on its way. Well, not quite full, but still pretty good for beans that we thought were on their way out and had already quit producing. This is really great to get this many more beans. That'll be that many more jars on our pantry shelves for winter. Well, finding all those beans really lifted my spirits, really give me a good feeling. I guess I'm having a case of what you'd say is the Mullygrubs of August. Kind of ready for all this to go away, and for the heat to go away, and for all the dingy brown to go away, and for those beautiful fall colors to come. While I was picking the beans, I was thinking about that, thinking about how this was great. This really lifted my spirits today. And then I was reminded of something my dear friend Jim Casta wrote about the month of August, how it kind of makes him feel like that too. So I'm going to take the beans in, show them to Matt if he's back. I don't know if he's back yet or not. And get me a cold drink, and then I'm going to find us a shady place to sit, and I'm going to share what Jim Casta wrote about the month of August with you. Feels much better back here in the shade, back in the shady part, the edge of the woods back here. Feels much better than out in that hot, hot sun. So what I was going to read to you comes from Jim's book, A Smoky Mountain Boyhood, Memories, Musings, and More. I'll be sure to put the link down below so that if you want to pick up a copy, it's really great. Now, I'm not going to read it all. There's a section in it where he kind of goes month by month, and of course this is about his life when he was growing up in the Smoky Mountains. So I'm not going to read all of the month of August, but I'm just going to read little bits and pieces of it, I guess, because it's how I feel about the month, the same. And reading it makes me feel better. My mullygrubs, I know, will go away, and I won't need to worry about the heat and the fighting the squash bugs and all those things. When your garden begins to die back, it's like simultaneously a relief and kind of sad, because you took care of it all summer long, and then you see that the plants are just withering, they're just dying. So we've already pulled out several of our beds, and we'll continue to do that. So I know that that's coming, but it's just a part of it that I don't like, and a part when the woods around, even where I'm sitting now, you may be able to see. I don't know what's behind me. Laurels don't do it as much, but trees especially that lose their leaves, laurels don't, and ivy doesn't. But they turn like rusty around the edges, and they just look dirty. Looks like somebody needs to give them a good pressure wash. But I know in a few more weeks, maybe a month, depends, different every year, but at least in another month, we'll begin to see those colors, the fall colors. Those trees will change colors, and they'll go from that dingy, rusty look that I don't like to the beautiful, beautiful garments of fall that they put on. So this is, like I said, I'm not going to read it all, but part from Jim's book. Honesty compels me to admit that August has never been my favorite month. Indeed, if pressed to rank the 12 months of the year in terms of which ones I like least, there would be a close race between August and February. There's plenty to dislike about August. It brings some summers worse features in the form of withering heat, breath-sucking humidity, attention from bothersome or painful pests such as dog gnats and yellow jackets, every problem imaginable plaguing the garden, fishing generally in the doldrums, and heartfelt longing for cooler weather gnawing at you while sweat drips off your brow. During dog days, thoughts of snakes striking blindly and being hyperactive thanks to shedding their skins are impossible to shake. The same holds true for worrying about sores and a pronounced tendency towards infection resulting from walking barefooted in dew-laden grass, getting dew poisoning. I could offer a takeoff on Grandpa and say that ain't so, but deep down there's a bit of niggling doubt about the threats presented by dog days. In the next part, Jim goes on to tell different things that happens, what August is, different things that happens in the month of August. I'm not going to read all of them again, but just a few. It's the disappearance of the last of the summer's sourwood bloom, and with it, realization that the tastiest honey known to mankind is stored in combs and ready for harvest. Incidentally, scrumptious as foxgrape jelly undeniably is, it has to take second place to sourwood honey when it comes to forming the perfect culinary accompaniment for a biscuit hot from the oven. A big biscuit split in half while piping hot with home-churned butter slathered on it and topped by a generous dollop of sourwood honey has to be about as close to earthly heaven as one can get when it comes to foodstuffs. Dog days mean hickory king field corn made and drying on the stalk prior to storage in a crib or barn, fine stuff for fattening hogs, feeding chickens, or making cornmeal. It's pack saddles on corn stalks, a dose of pure pain if you happen to brush up against one of these stinging brethren of Beelzebub. It's the wonderful fragrance of dust being laid by a brief welcome shower. It's dust devils dancing across fields carrying milkweed spores on a wild whirlwind of a journey. It's swallowtail butterflies and fritillaries dancing in the air around the deep purple flowers of ironweed or the less impressive but still attractive blooms of tall Joe Pye weed plants. It's hornet's nest grown large, something to be avoided at all costs, telling a tale of what winter holds by their size and height above streams over which they are so often constructed. Dog days mean dreams of coming fall, when the yellow of turning hickories will send a message to squirrel hunters and when the heat is exchanged for a welcome chill in the morning air. It's the glorious passage of a cool front when you can smell hints of autumn on gentle breezes. Somehow, such moments add spring to one's step and bring a quickening of the soul. It's a brief respite between the laying by of crops in the heart of summer and the laying in time of coming fall. At the end of each of these months in the book, I think at the end of most all of them, or yeah, at the end of every one of them, Jim gives a little weather piece of folklore. So at the end of this one is, if the heat of early August comes on strong, coming winter will be hard and long. So I hope you enjoyed hearing from Jim there. It's exactly how I'm feeling today. Today I guess I could add to his writing for me would be, August is a surprise of a bean patch of rattlesnake beans making enough for one more cannon when I thought they were on the way out. I guess it's kind of the last hurrah of the garden to still produce, and right when you think it's time to tear it all out, you're like, oh, there's a cucumber, oh, there's a squash, there's some beans that I can can. Definitely lifted my spirits on this August day when I'm feeling much the same way that Jim did when he looks back over his life and thinks about the August and all the various months stacked up against each other, that August is just not one of his favorites. It's really funny that I would say that because I was born in the month of August, so kind of strange for me to say that. And Matt and I were married in the month of August, so two different things. I am really thankful for both of those things, of course, and I guess in the same way that Jim was doing in the book, I can say, well, I don't like the things of August, the dying back of nature, the heat, the humidity, but what joy to find green beans in my patch that surprised me, spend time in that wonderful bean patch that's just so beautiful and so enchanting, and then also dwell upon how wonderful it is that God blessed me with life and that He blessed me with a wonderful husband like Matt. I'm always glad when you stop by to help me celebrate Appalachia, whether that's making a garden, making a wonderful biscuit like Jim described, makes me want to go in and make some biscuits and have some sourwood honey, or if it's whether I'm talking about, like today, kind of the joys and then the not so joyful things of having the Mullygrubs, whether that's about things going on in your life, like Granny being sick, I'm, you know, still grieving for Miss Cindy and mourning the death of Summer.